One letter was missing. In a house where walls whisper and shadows listen, someone had read Oma's heart. After the slap, the shoving, the burning clothes, and the venomous words, Ujunwa no longer cried in public. Her tears had gone inward, soaking the corners of her heart. She was done fighting. The once elegant woman who walked with grace now sat for hours, staring into nothing. Her once lively voice had become a ghost in her throat. Her children? She kept them close, always, too close. But the damage had already crawled deep into their little minds. J-Boy, then and brave, had grown quieter. Oma, just 7, barely smiled anymore. One day, Ujunwa walked into a small quiet office, stiff-backed chairs, dusty air, and a kind-faced woman with gentle eyes. A therapist.
You've been through a lot.
The therapist said softly.
But tell me, didn't your husband leave a will?
Ujunwa gave a bitter smile, her eyes red and dry.
He was a young man. He never knew he would go so soon.
The therapist sighed.
We must all prepare, not because we wish to die, but because those we love may live on. And they must live in peace.
Those words hung in the air like incense smoke. Days later, the house, her husband's house, was locked up, padlocked like a thief's den. Jimito's brothers stood outside like armed guards. You must leave this place or we'll burn it down, they threatened. You're not family. You're not our family. She knew it was no more safe. For her children's sake, she left. Ujunwa and her children moved to a corner of town where the gutters overflowed after every rain, where the walls of the one-room apartment wept when the sun rose. A slum, but at least it was peace. Her fighting spirit gone, her laughter buried, her dreams shattered like ashes in the wind. J-Boy changed. At school, he stared at the floor more than he looked at the board. His class teacher tried again and again.
J-Boy,
She often said,
are you okay?
I'm fine, Ma.
he would say, always the same. Until one rainy Tuesday he spoke. He told her, in whispers and broken sentences, how he watched his uncle slap his mother, how his aunts shaved her hair, how he stood there helpless as his mother's dignity was dragged into the dust. The teacher wept that day, not loudly, but a tear fell onto her lesson notes. Meanwhile, little Alma, oh sweet Alma, every day, with trembling hands and wet eyes, she wrote letters.
Dear Daddy, please come back. Mommy is sad. J-Boy cries sometimes. I miss your voice. I promise I'll be a good girl. Love, Oma.
She folded each letter with care and kept them in an old carton under her bed. One letter for each day, one hope for each night. Then one evening, as the oil lamp flickered and the crickets sang, Oma knelt by her carton to add another letter. But something was wrong. One letter was missing. She searched under the bed, behind the carton, under the mat. Gone,
Mommy?
she cried.
One letter is missing.
Ujunwa rushed in, her heart raced. She checked the windows, the door. Nothing seemed out of place. But the letter was gone. And in that slum, with walls that whispered and shadows that listened, someone had read Oma's heart. What became of the missing letter? Who took it? And what winds were turning behind the veil of sorrow? There is a wise saying by the elders. In the darkest of nights, even the smallest light can reveal truths long buried or spirits long lost. The wind that night carried a strange chill. Ujunwa had just put out the lamp. Her back ached from the long day of washing clothes for neighbors to earn a few naira. The children lay on their thin mats, whispering softly to each other, their voices barely louder than the hum of mosquitoes. The silence fell. Alma, as usual, couldn't sleep. She had been watching the moon. Its pale light poured in through the broken window frame, lighting up the dusty floor. She clutched one of her letters, tonight's message to her father. Then something shifted outside. She blinked. A shadow. Not just any shadow. Tall, broad, and still. Standing right beneath the old mango tree beside their apartment. Her breath caught in her throat. The shape, the way he stood. Her tiny voice quivered.
J-Boy, is that Daddy?
J-Boy stared, frowning.
What are you saying?
Come and see.
She said eagerly. He dragged himself to the window, his heart thudding. Mama pointed, her hand shaking. And then, the figure turned, slowly. The moonlight bathed his face. And there he was, Jimeto. The same sharp jawline, the same eyes filled with warmth and worry. His head tilted, just like it used to when he watched them sleep. J-Boy gasped.
It's him.
Mama's grip tightened on his arm.
Brother, are ghosts real?
J-Boy didn't answer. He couldn't. Because the man, the father, just stood there, watching, almost like he wanted to step forward, almost like he was trying to say something. But then, just as suddenly as he had appeared, he vanished. Not like someone who ran away. No, he dissolved into the night, like smoke. Mama cried silently.
If he was a ghost, why did he look so sad?
J-Boy held her close, whispering.
I don't know, sister, but that was him.
The next morning, Ujunwa emerged from the back, wiping her hands on her wrapper. Worry etched across her face as she found them huddled by the window, their eyes wide open, staring into the sunlight. They told her everything. She didn't laugh. She didn't dismiss it. She didn't scold them for dreaming. Because deep inside her shattered heart, a flame flickered. Something wasn't right. She remembered that missing letter. She remembered how, days before, someone had opened the window in the middle of the night. She had blamed the wind. But now, would Jimeto truly be alive? Or was her pain so deep, it was conjuring ghosts? Either way, something had awakened in Ujunwa. Something fierce, something brave. And as the sun rose higher, the story of betrayal, loss, and mystery was far from over. Because sometimes, the truth refuses to stay buried. The sun rose slowly over the slum that morning, casting long, tired shadows over rusted rooftops and uneven streets. Ujunwa sat on the floor, spooning pap into her children's mouths. J-Boy ate in silence. Mama just stared hers, eyes fixed on the carton beneath her small bed. The carton where she kept all her letters to her father. She had written another one the night before, just like she always did. Only one had gone missing.
Daddy, please. Just one more sign.
And now, as the morning light crept into the room, something odd caught her eye. There, on the bed, plain as day, was the missing letter. Alma blinked in shock. Her small fingers reached out slowly, trembling. She picked it up carefully, staring at the familiar folded paper. It was hers, no doubt. She recognized her childish handwriting. But now, something was different. At the bottom of the page, beneath her words, was fresh handwriting. Not hers, not her brother's. It was neat, firm, and familiar. Just 5 words which read, "My precious one, I'm near." Oh my gosh,
Mommy,
she screamed. Ujunwa turned to her, her heart racing.
What is it? What happened?
Mama held up the paper with both hands, her eyes wide with wonder and confusion.
it's my letter. The one that got missing. Look, someone wrote on it.
Ujunwa took the paper, her fingers suddenly cooled. She read the words once, then twice. She sank slowly onto the mat, her legs giving way. Tears welled in her eyes, not of fear, but of something else, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. J-Boy took the letter too, reading it aloud.
My precious one, I'm near.
The room went quiet. Even the usual morning bells, the neighbor's radio, the sound of water fetching seemed to hush. Could it be? Was Jimeto, her husband, their father, not truly dead? Or was his spirit trying to reach out to them? Ujunwa clutched the letter to her chest, rocking gently.
If this is a dream, let me not wake,
She said. But somewhere, deep within her soul, she felt it. The wind had shifted, and something or someone was coming, or not. That night, Ujunwa had a dream. Oma had been sitting by the window again, scribbling another letter to her father. The curtain under her bed was almost full now, each note a cry from a daughter to the wind. As she wrote,
Daddy, please come back to us.
the breeze lifted the paper gently from her fingers. It fluttered across the room, danced through the broken window, and vanished into the street below. And then she woke up from the dream, sweating and trembling. Days passed. Ujunwa, now a shadow of the radiant woman she once was, wandered through the crowded market with her children by her side. Her wrapper was faded, her eyes sunken from nights soaked in silent tears. As she haggled with a fish seller, a deep familiar voice rumbled behind her.
You were never one to bargain so hard.
Her heart stopped. Time stood still. Her fingers froze mid-air. Slowly, very slowly, she turned, and there he stood, in person. Jimeto, dressed in simple, dusty clothes, a faded kaftan clinging to his lean frame. His left leg dragged slightly. His skin was darker, worn by the sun and a journey too long. His beard was rough, but his eyes, oh, those eyes, they were the same. Ujunwa staggered back, her voice barely a whisper.
Am I going mad?
He took off his cap, revealing a face she had memorized in grief.
No, my love, it's really me.
He said. He didn't smile. He didn't reach for her. He only whispered.
I came back, but I couldn't come home.
Before she could speak, the children screamed, "Daddy!" They ran into his arms, sobbing, touching his face as though afraid he would vanish again. Ujunwa crumbled into his chest, her fists pounding his shoulders.
Why? Why didn't you come back? We buried ashes. I mourned you.
She collapsed into his embrace, shaking, weeping. And then the story tumbled from his lips like the first rains of Harmattan after a season of drought. The business trip had been a trap. Ken, his best friend, had arranged everything. The plane never truly crashed. Jimeto had been abducted, drugged, and held for months in a compound deep in the north. They faked the crash, faked the wreckage, want anonymous bodies to pass as passengers. But it was just so they could take everything, his wealth, his land, his life. And they nearly succeeded. But fate, or maybe God, intervened. One night, during a violent storm, Jimeto escaped. He'd been wandering ever since. Afraid, weak, unsure of who to trust. Until one night, he saw his daughter's letter floating through a broken window, blown by the wind into a gutter near the old train yard. He recognized her handwriting. He followed it back, and now here he was, alive, broken, but back. In that moment, in the market, the slum around them disappeared. Pain melted into joy. Grief drowned in reunion. Hope long buried rose again. Ujunwa sobbed, not just from sorrow, but from relief, gratitude, anger. The children clung to their father like vines starved for sunlight, and for the first time in a long while, Ujunwa smiled, not because life had suddenly become perfect, but because home had returned. The news spread like Hamatan fire. Jimeto, the man they had buried, was alive, alive and standing at the very gates of the compound he built with his sweat and love. It began with whispers, then gasps, then screams. The compound, once a symbol of unity and wealth, had become a battlefield, torn apart by greed. His brothers were living large, his sisters driving the cars he once bought for Ujunwa. His best friend Ken, traitor in disguise, was now parading as the new landlord of Jimeto's most prized land. But that evening, as the sun dipped behind the palm trees, casting a golden hue on the village road, a figure approached the compound gate. He walked slowly, each step echoing with the ghosts of betrayal. Jimeto, clad in a plain white shirt and black trouser. No entourage, no noise, just presence. In the compound, Sister Ada was yelling at a maid over her missing gele. Uncle Ebuka, Jimeto's elder brother, sat outside drinking palm wine and laughing with Ken. None of them saw him at first, not until a boy ran in from the gate, panting.
Uncle Jimeto, he's back, oh, the dad has returned.
The cup dropped. Ken choked. Ada staggered. What did you say? Ebuka roared. Then he turned and saw the man they buried, walking toward them, unshaken, unforgiving, unstoppable. Jimeto, you are alive. Ken stood, trying to force a smile. My brother, my man. We thought, we were told you died. Jimeto didn't reply. His silence was louder than thunder. He walked past Ken, past his trembling sisters, past his stuttering brothers, and then he turned.
I watched you all, from the shadows.
He said slowly.
Watched you burn my wife's clothes, slap her in front of our children, steal what you didn't build, fight over the bones of a man you thought was gone.
His voice rose, not in anger, but in pain.
But God is not blind. The earth does not swallow the truth forever.
Then came the shock. Unknown to them, Jimeto had returned not just with stories, but with evidence, voice recordings, and most powerful of all, a legal will he had secretly written and deposited with a friend overseas. The will named Ujunwa as the custodian of all his properties, every single one. He had always planned to surprise her with it. Instead, she had received betrayal and ashes. Now it was time to take back. The law came. Ken was arrested. The brothers were summoned to court. The sisters were shamed publicly for abuse and slander. Tenants returned to pay rent into the rightful accounts, and Ujunwa stood tall once more, not as a widow, not as a victim, but as the queen of her home. That night, as they returned to their rebuilt house, J-Boy looked at his father and asked,
Daddy, why did you take so long to come back?
Jimeto knelt beside him, his voice thick with emotion.
Because I wanted to return strong enough to protect you all, forever.
He said. And Alma, holding her carton of letters, smiled. She knew deep in her heart her last letter had reached her daddy. The wind whispered through the mango trees that night, not with sorrow, but with healing. The family was whole again. The storm was over. The sun had finally returned. The compound that once echoed with the voices of betrayal now sang with laughter, forgiveness, and truth. Ujunwa stood on the balcony of their home, the same place she had once been dragged out of like a thief. She was holding a small brown carton in her hands. Oma's carton. Inside were nearly 100 letters, written by a child with nothing but hope in her heart and a pencil in her hand.
Dear Daddy, we miss you. J-Boy is trying to be strong. Mommy cries when she thinks we're asleep. Please come back. Daddy, they said you're not coming. But I know they're lying. Daddy, I saw you. I think it was you. You were standing under the mango tree. Were you an angel?
Each letter bore tear stains. Each one held a piece of a little girl's faith. And now, they were no longer just scribbles. They were proof that love transcends distance, even death. That night, Jimeto sat with Oma and J-Boy on the veranda, the carton between them. He picked up one letter, unfolded it carefully, and read it aloud. The children listened. Ujunwa sat beside them, her eyes brimming with tears. And when Jimeto finished reading, he held the letter to his chest and said,
These letters brought me back, not just to you, but to myself.
Weeks later, the story of Oma's letters began to spread. Elders invited Jimeto to tell it in village gatherings. Schools asked Ujunwa to share her journey of strength and survival. Even the therapist, who once guided her, asked for permission to publish the story, with Oma's letters as the heart of it. And thus, the legacy of the letters was born. Not just a tale of pain and betrayal, but a tale of faith, of family, of the power of a child's voice. In time, Jimeto built a library in the heart of the town. He named it after his daughter, Oma's Chest of Hope. Inside, on the center table, sat a glass box, and in that box lay the carton of letters, unopened now, but forever remembered. For in the land of folk tales, not every story ends in sorrow. Some end with redemption, some with justice, and some, like this one, with love that refused to die.
Trust is the foundation of love. And a man's true wealth is not in his riches, but in the family that stands by him when the world turns upside down.